social media tools are great, but on the other hand, we are living in a very, very transparent society right now. So the question is, how do you balance the fear of people saying any bad things about your company, about your product? And on the other hand, you want to receive authentic consumer feedback. It's, I think, a big issue for all companies, especially startups.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the most important first point is having a good product and one that you're happy talking about. It's like, there are some, like there's this site, altsearchengines.com, and so that every month they'll say, like, here are the 100 alternative search engines to watch, and so a couple months I've actually gone through and tried out every single one of them. Months when I've had more time. And so I'll look at them, and like 95% of them are crap, and you just wonder, like, why are people bothering? And then some.
Didn't think people would bother to try them.
Well, I guess so, and these are supposed to be the best ones. So there's always that level. Now, that being said, people like me will go and find these products or sites or whatever they are, and say I'll say on my blog, if it's really bad and I want to warn other users, I'll say it's crap, so I'm going to talk about it anyway, whether they contact me or not. Now, if they're contacting me as a blogger and they're saying, well, hey, give us a shot, and here's some of the features we have coming, and there's one guy I mean, I didn't lash out in a mean way, but I was very critical of. And he came back months later and said, we've totally changed the system, and it's thanks to people like you who are really critical of it. And I'm not sure I love his new system, but I have tremendous respect for him, and I'm going to have a really hard time saying anything negative, or hard.
Yeah. But if they're saying
it's got pretty
they've always
colors.
been saying it about you. They just haven't been saying it in public, so you haven't been able to hear them.
Well, yeah, I mean,
they're saying it to other people.
Right.
Not
Well,
you.
my response to that is always like, you're either going to find that on your blog or at the cash register. I mean, people are either not, people either they're not going to buy it because it's not very good, or they're going to tell you about it beforehand. And wouldn't you rather have it in a more constructive manner before it's too late?
There are things you haven't even thought of. And we think of a lot of things, but there'll be, someone will say something to my blog, have you tried this? And I think, simplistic elegance, why didn't I think of that? But you know what? It's having people point things out to you. Social media is for the strong. But the point is, it's not going to go away. When you give people voices, they're not going to just then give them back. So we have to learn how to take the good with the bad.
Right.
Because the bad can be good.
Yeah, and also realize that most people are pretty kind in the social media space, that they're not going to start savaging you. And then if that does happen, you just sort of have to say, okay, is this person credible, or are they just having a bad day and I happen to be there?
We're at the beginning of it when you think about it. Everyone's used to these every once in a while negative comments, and people blow them off. I mean,
I think we're learning maybe as a society how to comment constructively these days, because it has happened so much. And I mean, you think about 10 years ago, I wasn't doing any of this. I wasn't commenting on blogs for companies' products or writing about it or anything like that. So how did when I write a blog post about something I'm going to criticize, I think long and hard about it. I mean, how negative is this going to be? How negative does it need to be to get across the point? Am I pissed off at this point? Should I go and rest for a little bit before I write something? I mean, I think we're learning how to criticize a bit more constructively. So I don't think you need to be as afraid of all of this sort of stuff, because I think people are going to be honest and they're generally good about their feedback. And you just can't get rid of it. You just have to accept sort of brutal honesty, really, about your product or your service. There's no other way around it, and you need the feedback. The feedback is absolutely fundamental to building a great product. So.
Better you know now. You need to get to that, bridge financing, that next one. I mean, better you know now how to improve the product. It's bad can be good, but it is for the strong. But pretty soon it'll be commonplace. So, 3 years.
And especially for startups where there's so much that can be changed, and it's like that these companies are in this evolving state. So yes, while the entrepreneur may be very emotionally invested in everything they've done so far, but it's like it's just such a great opportunity too to take advantage of this and getting back to listening as early as possible, and then at this point, even once news of the product starts getting out there, then yeah, just having that flexibility, it's such tremendous power to tap into.
Back in the day, when AOL was actually a startup, they had, they were soaring high, and how many CDs do we have of theirs in our mailbox? Anyhow, and then they came around to having lots and lots of problems, and then all of a sudden they said, you know what? We're going to be transparent about this before the 2.0 craze. And they listed about, I want to say between 70 and 100 problems. And what they would do is they would actually do a task list, and they would add and they would cross off, and it gained them so much respect. I mean, just think about it, just normal. When someone comes to you and says, I'm sorry, that, this was something I could do better, or I had a learning curve, all of a sudden they become so much more human to you, and they said they're sorry and they're working on it. You may not love them, but like David was saying, your respect has grown, and at least the dialogue is open. So, I mean, I just think we can learn from a lot of being very transparent, not just about how great our product is, but what we need to improve. Twitter would have won a lot more respect for me. Twitter went through some problems lately with being down more than they were up. And we really love the brand, and we love being able to speak in real time. And it's really nice to keep me to 140 characters. So, it's all sorts of value. But they just wouldn't respond about how their service was going down. They just started to. And now they've started that conversation. People are, I think, being a little more patient with them. I don't know what you guys have found.
No, it's true.
Bad for a couple weeks
but
there.
yeah, but the first few weeks, there was no explanation. There was just no word. It was like, and so you should have sat there and said, like, oh, is something wrong with my computer? Is my internet connection off? Like, because there's clearly they would have said something if they were having a problem.
And they were out of date. Like, all of a sudden, say I'm following 100 people. All of a sudden, I'm only following 20. And I'm getting Alan's tweets from 3 days ago, and he's writing, is something wrong here? And I'm like, we've decided to just be zen about it, and things that are lost were supposed to be lost. And then about a week later, I was like, okay, my type A New York City personality has returned. I can no longer be zen about this service. And they still weren't saying anything. But if they had responded, I think some of the animosity would have been down. So. You can admit your faults, but just in an age of conversation, talk.
Yeah.